Hello managers and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most exciting topics in football right now, the 2024-25 Premier League season. With fresh transfers and managerial changes and clubs hungry for success, this season promises to be one of the most unpredictable yet. From the newly promoted teams trying to make their mark, to the usual suspects battling for the title, there's so much to discuss. I'll be predicting the final standings from top to bottom, considering all the latest developments including major signings, strategic shifts, and the impact of new coaches. But before I start, I do want to say that I've created a fantasy Premier League where I'd love for my subscribers to join, and I'll even throw in a prize for the winner at the end of the season, which is a copy of the latest FM. But I'm gonna say it's only a competition if we get at least like 10 to 20 people in the league to make it fair and not just one person joining so they can win FM. Do you know what I'm saying? So without further ado, let's get into my predictions. I wasn't sure where to start because if I immediately give you who I think is gonna win the league, there goes the viewer retention. But then I thought it's gonna be pretty boring because I feel like we all know who's gonna win the league again, and it's pretty obviously gonna be Man City. Although they've been quiet when it comes to transfers, with their only major signing being Savinho, and what a player may I add, I feel like it's just Pep Guardiola. I think this season he's going to incorporate more youngsters, and we already saw this in the Community Shield with him starting James McAtee and Nico O'Reilly. And personally I think it's going to be a huge season for Oscar Bob playing on the wing, but it's just going to be bog standard City. Even if they do pick up a few injuries, we saw what happened last season. They'll end up going on a 15-game win streak, absolutely demolishing teams. They are just inevitable, and they are going to be league champions once again. And then in second place, it's just boring again, with last year's runners-up coming runners-up again for me. Arsenal have also been quiet when it comes to transfers, with one major signing being Calafiori, in which I think majority of Arsenal fans don't even know who he is. I think signing a centre-back for Arsenal is odd for me, because they weren't defensively bad last season. I think they needed to find a different midfielder and possibly a proper striker in order to challenge City. But hey, transfer window isn't closed yet, so they could do some last-minute signings like Ivan Toney or somebody else. And then coming in third for me is a massive one, and that is Manchester United. I think United are going to have a revolutionary season. It seems like under new sporting ownership of Ineos, there are changes trying to be made, with notable signings being Lenny Euro, Joshua Zirkzee, Matthias de Ligt, and Mazraoui. Combined with the already existing squad, I feel like these new players are going to be huge for Erik ten Hag, even if United do pick up injuries again. Although I do think United are still lacking something in midfield. After watching this past weekend's Community Shield game, Casemiro just seems off the pace, and for me, Kobbie Mainoo just isn't a 6. By playing Kobbie Mainoo as a 6, I feel like you're holding back his talent, because he's such a wonderful player going forward. As we saw for England, his ability to link up the play, find those passes, and even get on the end of scoring opportunities is just crazy. And rounding off the Champions League places for me is going to be Chelsea. Although having a poor preseason, you're probably thinking to yourself, there's no chance Chelsea finish fourth. Well, just hear me out. They have a very big squad. They have to come right eventually, right? They are just signing everyone. If it doesn't work, they'll just sign another player. And I think even if the manager doesn't work, in my opinion, they're going to go back to what the old managerial regime did, is if it doesn't work, sack the coach. And that's probably going to happen. If it doesn't work out for Enzo, I think he's gone. So results are a must for Chelsea, and top 4 is a realistic target for them this season. And then finishing both, this spot belongs to Tottenham. They've also been quiet in the transfer window, but with the additions of Archie Gray and an informed striker like Dom Solanke, is going to be absolutely pivotal for them. Although they are in Europe this season, which might be difficult for Ange in terms of squad depth, but I think they'll survive enough to finish 5th. And then finishing 6th might be a surprise, and this is Aston Villa, with probably the team being the most busy in the transfer window, signing players like Ian Maatsen, Amadou Onana, Enzo Breshka, and Ross Barkley is absolutely perfect for them. They have squad depth and some quality players. I think they'll finish 6th just because they are in Europe this season. And for a team that hasn't been in the Champions League in a long time, balancing European nights and Premier League matches is going to be a new experience for a lot of the people at the club, especially because I think they're going to go far in the new Champions League format, and they're coming in 7th is another surprise. But a team that has also been very busy in the transfer window, with not only a new coach, but also some great signings West Ham have made, like Max Kilman from Wolves, Nicholas Füllkrug from Dortmund, and Somerville from Leeds. I think West Ham are going to finish 7th. They're going to have a much better season than last, even with all the allegations of Paqueta hanging over their head. West Ham are going to have a solid season, and then coming in at 8th is a team that are probably going to get a lot of hate for, and this is Liverpool. Liverpool are also one of those teams with a new coach being on a slot. They have made 0 new signings, with quite a few outgoings, with the likes of Joe Matip, Thiago, and a surprise one for me is Carvalho. I seriously thought Carvalho was going to have a great season under Arne's slot, but they decided not. So therefore, with the combination of a new coach and a new squad setup, I don't think Liverpool are going to have a great season. And let's not forget, they are also in the Champions League. So for me, I think 8th is just right for them. And then at 9th is Crystal Palace. This might be a little bit biased just because I love the way Palace play. With Oliver Glasner showing what he is capable of at the back end of last season, combined with the new signings like Ismail Sarr, Dachi Kamada and Chadi Riyad, as well as the emergence of Adam Wharton, I think Palace are going to have a really solid season. And I've seen reports of Wilfred Zaha wanting to come back to the Premier League. And personally, the place Zaha found his best form was Palace. So whether that happens or not, I still think Palace are going to have a great season for them and finish at 9. And rounding off the top 10 is Newcastle. I think Newcastle are going to have a big drop off. They've also been very quiet in the transfer window, not really bringing in players which I think they need. I mean, like, yes, they signed Lloyd Kelly and Lewis Hall on a permanent, but that just isn't enough for me with all that Saudi cash. And who knows what's going to happen with Eddie Howe's future. Will he take the England job or not? But I just think they've dropped off from what they were, and that's why I think 10th is just perfect for them right now. And then from places 11th, 12th and 13th, I think all these places can be whoever you want, just how close it is at the bottom half of the table. But 11th, I think is going to be Fulham. They've made a few good signings like Smith Rowe, but Fulham haven't really showed enough for me. Last season, I feel like they struggled to score goals and keep clean sheets. And then at 12 is Brighton Hove Albion. I think they're going to struggle to break into the top 10 this season, especially since losing De Zerbi and replacing him with a young coach in Fabian Holzer. They've also been quite quiet in the transfer season, with not really any noticeable transfers. But this is Brighton. They'll have a few wonderkids up their sleeves that will blow us all away, and that I'm sure of. And then coming in at 13th is Brentford. I think Thomas Frank's style of play will keep Brentford up this season, especially with the signing of Carvalho, who is an absolute talent. And I think they might be able to hold on to Ivan Toney, but that's a big if. But if they do, they're gonna have a solid season for them and finishing 13th. And then coming in at 14th is another surprise, and I think this is Bournemouth. Although they've lost their main man Dom Solanke and haven't really brought in anything to replace him, I do think Andoni Iraola will make it work, with great players like Justin Kluivert, Alex Scott, Semenyo, Sinistera, and so on. 14th for Bournemouth is an absolute steal for them. And then we are left with the squeaky positions. These bottom 8 positions can honestly be anybody. We always see teams interchanging from last to 15th or 19th to 17th or so on. So finishing 15th is Wolves. Like, don't get me wrong, I am one of Gary O'Neill's biggest supporters. I absolutely love the way he plays, and I think it's not long until he manages a way bigger club. But with Wolves losing their captain Max Kilman, as well as one of their star boys Pedro Neto, and not really bringing anything special, unless you count Thomas Doyle or Lamina as great players, I feel like it just isn't enough to break Wolves into the top 10 for this upcoming season. And then at 16th is a big one, and this is Everton. I think they are actually going to survive playing Dyche ball, and although they've lost Amadou Onana and Ben Godfrey and haven't really replaced them with anything great, I still think they're going to stay up this season. Playing in the new stadium under Sean Dyche, we all know what we can expect from Everton: a compact, defensive style, hard to beat team. And next up is finishing at 17, and this for me is going to be Leicester City. Yes, I know it's the Vardy party, but this isn't going to be enough for Steve Cooper's men. Losing key players like Dewsbury Hall, Iheanacho, and Dennis Pratt, Leicester could be a tough team to beat under Steve Cooper, but I just don't think they have enough when it comes to the squad. I'm like, sure, they've got some big names like Reed, Daka, Somare, but it just isn't going to be enough for me. And speaking of not being enough, and the first team to get relegated is going to be Nottingham Forest. Playing Nuno ball and making weird signings again and adding 6 new signings to a already bloated squad doesn't really make sense to me. I just think it's time for Forest to go down and maybe get a reset. If you have time, just look at the Forest squad list. They've got 8 forwards, and we all know they're only going to play 1. Their squad just doesn't really make sense to me, and I think a relegation might just be what Forest need in order to reset. And then the second team to get relegated is Ipswich Town. I'm sorry, Ed Sheeran, but this might just be my ignorance. And yes, Kieran McKenna did a great job of getting the team promoted to the Premier League. I think this is just another Luton situation. But again, that might be my arrogance of not watching Champions League football, but I still think it's not going to be enough for them to survive. But I will say the only way I think Ipswich will survive is if we see teams breaching FFP again and getting points deductions, so they might get lucky in those certain situations. Yes, I'm looking at you, Forest and Everton. Oh, and City. Whether they'll be found guilty of their millions of breaches, I don't know, but we never know what can happen this season. And then rounding off my Premier League predictions, and coming in at dead last is Southampton. It might be my arrogance again by not knowing the championship, but looking at their squad, I just think they don't have enough. I don't know much about their coach, Russell Martin, but it also seems like they won't have the players to compete in the top flight. Players like McCarthy, Jack Stevens, Adam Lallana, and Brenton Diaz just isn't enough for the Premier League, in my opinion. So there you have it, managers. That is my predictions of the 2024-2025 Premier League standings. And as we've seen, the Premier League never fails to surprise. With all the new dynamics at play, this season could go down in history as one of the most thrilling yet. Whether it's the big money transfer signings of Villa shaking it up the top 6, or the underdog stories unfolding at the bottom, every club has something to fight for. So make sure you drop your predictions in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And don't forget to join my Fantasy Premier League table, and you could be the lucky subscriber to win a copy of FM. And don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.